Hello everyone, welcome to Pathashala. Hello everyone, welcome to Pathashala. This is me, Dr. GP sir. In a previous class, we discussed about the agriculture part 1. So one of the most difficult chapter according to people. We discussed about the meaning of agriculture, importance of agriculture, features. We also discussed about the problems and what are the steps we can take to improve the agriculture. Since we all discussed that India is an agriculture country, obviously it is also very important to know that what are the problems that have been faced by the agriculture has to be resolved, correct? Then only agriculture can be developed. So these are the things that we have discussed in part 1, and let us continue in part 2. What are the things that we are going to discuss in part 2 is, so the types of agriculture. What are the types of farming? So first let us know what are the different types of farmings we have. We have subsistence farming, commercial farming, plantation farming, mixed farming, organic farming. So these are the different types of farming we have. So of course we are going to discuss with the best examples as well. Okay, best examples and the pictures as well. You people also can refer your textbook, and also you can use your notes or anything. And I told you to remind you again that whatever the points that you can see on my desktop on your screen, so all those are nothing but the points or the notes. You can use it, and also you can write it in your board examination. So it is the same. So first let us study about the types of farming. That is nothing but let us discuss about subsistence farming. What do you mean by subsistence farming? In this, farmers, they own crops for their own consumption. So that's the main important. Anything they grow for their own purpose, whatever they use. You imagine at home also, the backyard. I think your parents, your mom will be growing some small vegetables or green leaves crops. You might have seen that, correct? Say for example, it could be the coriander leaves. Okay, so those are curry leaves especially. So they use it for whatever the curry making, curry leaves, coriander leaves, and all grown. Sometimes even tomatoes, brinjal, all those crops are grown at the backyard. So those are used. So that is only for the consumption, own consumption, and they do not sell it. So that's how when I say what is subsistence farming, one thing that you have to remember here, crops are grown for own consumption. That means for the own use of their farmers. So in this we have two things. One is primitive farming, another one is shifting cultivation. Farming, cultivation, one and the same. In the primitive method, primitive means the name itself says it's nothing but old method. Those days, however, they used to grow crops. You might have seen even in the movies and all. They may use this the wooden plow, the bullock cart, all those things, oxen were used. So same way here also when we talk about the primitive farming, it's old method where the simple and old technologies were used. So definitely even now you don't even expect the tractors. They don't use tractors also, ox or oxen, those wooden plows, plowing machines. So those things only they might have used. That is primitive farming. So obviously you have to understand one logic. When they are growing for their own consumptions, obviously it is going to be in a small land, correct? In a small land, they are not going to grow in a very huge land. If you are selling it to others, so probably you need a good number of production, a more production. So then you may have to grow crops in a huge land. So now anyway you are growing for your own consumption. So probably for 3 months or 6 months, how much you need? Even if you get a small piece of land, you can grow. And when you are using a small growing crops in a small piece of land, you don't need any hi-fi technology. You understood? So this is how logically you have to understand. Primitive farming is nothing but where the crops are grown with a simple and old or ancient technologies. Next, second one is shifting cultivation. What do you mean by shifting cultivation? The name itself says shifting means it is nothing but moving from one place to another place. Why do they move? When the fertility of the soil is exhausted. Exhausted means when it is reduced, people will move. These farmers, they leave that land and they move it to a different land. They go for a fresh land. Probably after 7 to 10 years, they come back to the same land and they start growing. By the time all whatever the nutrients, vitamins are recovered. Okay. So this shifting cultivation is also called as slash and burn. Slash and burn. However, the slash and burn method of growing crops is banned in most of the states in India. The reason is, what do they do is, after growing crops, obviously the fertility of the soil will reduce, correct? Whatever the nutrients, vitamins required for that particular crops will be absorbed. Second time, obviously the production will not be good. So whatever the agricultural waste will be there, whatever the leftover things will be there, so they just put on fire to it. Why? Maybe that's their practice. After growing crops, they just put harvesting everything, they put on fire and they start moving to a different place. And that burning, slash and burn method, once they burn, so that will spoil the fertility of the soil. So it takes too much of time to regain the fertility, or sometimes the land may be like it may not get the fertility of the soil because they burn and go ashes. So that is why this slash and burn, it is also called as zooming. Okay, zooming is also, or shifting cultivation is banned in most of the states. So under subsistence farming, you have to remember two things: primitive farming and the shifting cultivation. The next one is commercial farming. The second one, the name itself says commercial farming means where it is mainly for the profit, for the sale purpose. So you might have seen some movies are they consider as commercial movies. Commercial movies means those movies are made only to get profits. Okay, so they just put use, or they take the call sheets of some stars, okay, great stars. They use some actions, all those things. Why? These are all commercial movies because to get profits only. They use some graphics and all. So those are all only meant for the profit purpose. So likewise, so commercial farming also, it has two types. So one is intensive farming, extensive farming. Okay, you have to remember these crops are grown only for the profit purpose. It could be like sugar cane, cotton, all those are only for the profit. Even it could be the tea, coffee, all those comes under the same thing only. So imagine they are grown for the profit purpose. When I say the profit purpose, coffee and all, coffee, tea, sugar cane and all, how much you people can use it for own consumption? Like we discussed in the previous one, that is subsistence farming. Farmer cannot use all the sugar cane whatever it is grown. Correct? How much sugar cane you can eat? So obviously those are all for the commercial purpose, or profit purpose. Tobacco, growing of tobacco is also only for the profit purpose. So in that first type is intensive farming. What do you mean by intensive farming? You have to understand. I told you this is mainly for the profit purpose, means obviously lot of money is invested. Capital is invested. When I say this tea and coffee estates and all, obviously you need more labor. When you need more labor, you have to pay more money to them, correct? So that's how the capital is more in this intensive farming. Obviously to work in the agricultural land you need more labor. To get good profit you have to use fertilizers. So these are all the few features of intensive farming. So just to understand, okay, what do you mean by intensive farming? Just to understand, you have to remember the huge capital is invested, good number of labors are required, and fertilizers are used. So when fertilizers are used, definitely some pesticides are also used, chemicals are also used because it is intensive farming. So just opposite to this is extensive farming. What is that? Not that huge amount is invested. A small amount is invested. Obviously, when small amount means labors are also might be not required that much. So small amount of labors are also used. And like sugarcane and all, it is grown in not to that extent. So obviously they do not require. When it comes to the tea and coffee and all, you might have observed acres of land will be used like estates, right? It's estate means obviously huge number of labors are required. So I think how many of you observed what is the difference between how this sugarcane agricultural area and tea estates, coffee estates look like? So coffee estates, definitely it will be huge. So next slide you can see the pictures also. I'll definitely show you how these estates look like. So obviously those are nothing but intensive farming. The sugarcane and all normal agricultural area and all, it's a sugarcane, that is extensive farming. So this you have to remember. So two features, okay, intensive farming, extensive farming, just to go through it. So next, moving on to the next is plantation farming. So plantation farming also, in this I told you, I will show you the picture of estate. So you can see that picture of estate, it could be the tea estate. So this plantation farming is mainly used by the Britishers. These are the Britishers are the one who used, who started this, because the tea, coffee estates were used. Okay, so that's how plantation means it is typically the tea and the coffee estates only, plantation crops. Okay, obviously it also required large capital, okay, and high technologies are used. So plantation normally it will be in a hill stations. So when it is comes to the hilly stations, hilly areas, obviously certain technologies has to be used in terms of irrigations also. Okay, irrigation facilities, because to that extent you can see in the picture only, to that extent the crops need water facility, irrigation is required, and obviously labor is also more. You may have to give them more salary in the sense more labors salary. So that's how, so capital is also, and definitely these estates are not going to be very small, vast estates. It's a huge estates. Even if you go to Kerala, you can see huge tea estates. If you go to Karnataka, Chikmagalur and all, you can see the huge coffee estates. Assam, tea estates again. So those are the best. So tea, coffee are the best example when it comes to the plantation. And you have to remember, when I say plantation, they are nothing but the hill. Okay, hill stations. So hilly region, not exactly the hill station, hilly region. So when I say hill, we can know that Assam is the best example. Okay, it is known for the good rainfall, and Himalayas not to forget, and Nilgiris when it comes to the South India. Okay, Nilgiris in Chennai, I mean Tamil Nadu, and we have Sahyadri Hills in Karnataka. So these are all known for this plantation farming. Okay, it's a slope area, hilly region. So they are known for plantation. So these are the points. If you remember, that's more than enough. Even if they ask you for 4 marks or 3 marks, you can write it. Okay. And remember, plantation, it was farming was introduced by the Britishers. Okay. Moving on to next slide. Mixed farming. What is mixed farming? Mixed farming, the name itself says that. Mixed means what? So the crops are grown at the same time, even the rearing of livestock, that means it could be the poultry farming. Okay, so even dairy farming. Dairy is nothing but cows, milk products. Okay, so those are also done together in the same agricultural land. Probably one side they will be growing crops, another side they will be having this poultry farming, or it could be sericulture, horticulture. All those comes under that. So beetroots are also grown, turnips are also grown. So these are the things. The thing is, so this is mixed farming. When I say, this is another way of making money. Imagine sometimes the crops are fail. The failure of the crop may be due to the flood or due to the diseases. I think the farmer can get some profit because of this poultry farming or milk dairy. He will not be under huge loss. At least somewhere the loss will be balanced. Imagine I depend only on the crops. I don't have any secondary income. So the entire crops are failed due to the drought or due to the disease, or it could be due to any other natural calamity. So the farmer will be getting huge loss, right? He has to incur huge loss. So there is no any other secondary income. At that time only farmers will commit a suicide. So nowadays insurance, crop insurance are there, but that crop insurance also will not cover for the entire 100%, 100%, correct? So when you have something like this, like a side business apart from accord. Even you, whatever you grow crops, according, even apart from that, you have this poultry farming. Okay, even animal husbandry, you also depend on animals or milk dairy, so you get some profit there also. So somewhere the loss is managed, correct? So in this mixed farming, obviously it is also somewhere profit oriented. So best quality of seeds are used, and advanced scientific technology is used, and fertilizers are used, because without fertilizers you cannot get good production, good yield. So that is why when you have best quality of seeds, advanced technology in terms of irrigation or any technology is used, along with that fertilizers are also used, obviously you get a good yield, until and unless there is no any natural calamities, natural problems, like it could be the flood or anything. So obviously the farmer will be happy, correct? So that is nothing but mixed farming. So just to keep you all reminding, uh, whatever the points you can see on your screen, you can just make a note and you can write it for your board examination. That itself is gives you a good mark. So those are any doubts you have, you're most welcome to comment, or also you can also follow me on the Instagram page under the name username called as GP underscore teacher. I repeat, GP underscore teacher. So you get my page. You can also comment, leave me a message there also if you have any doubts. So let us move on to the next type of farming. This is another and the last important the farming, the types of farming is organic farming. So probably nowadays you people can be, I think you might have noticed wherever somewhere across your cities they say that what do you call it as organic food. Organic food is normally without using any chemicals, pesticides. It is completely chemical free, no chemicals. So what do they do is, in this one feature is crop rotation will be there. Crop rotation means in a particular land at least you can grow 2 or 3 types of crops depending on what type of crops you are growing. So you have to understand this logically. Okay, imagine for the first 6 months you grow a crop, any crop, whatever the nutrients or vitamins required to that particular crop will be absorbed by the earth completely. Whatever the nutrients is required, it is completely absorbed from the earth. So second time if you are growing the same type of crop, obviously you don't get same amount of vitamins or nutrients from the earth. So at that time what do? They change the crop, they grow a different crop. For example, first crop is somewhere rice. You have grown rice. Second time what do? They grow some fruits or they grow some flowers. So whatever is required for the flowers, it will be there. So for that, the scientific technology is useful. They test the mud, the soil. They test that soil. There are so many laboratories. They test the soil to know what type of vitamins and minerals are there available in that particular soil. What are the types of crops that can be grown. So definitely each and every village panchayat, gram panchayat, they will advise a farmer what type of crops can be grown in that particular soil. So it will be helpful, right? So first 6 months I'm growing crop A. So second 6 months I will grow crop B. Obviously, by the time I complete the second 6 months, so definitely whatever the fertility of the soil will be regained, the vitamins will be regained. So that is one the best way of organic farming. That is called as crop rotation. Okay, so biological use of pest control, obviously any crop for that matter. In agriculture there are so many insects, pests will be there. So obviously to use that, what normally they do is they use chemicals. As you all know that it is not so good for health, human health, correct? It is just like a slow poison. So in this they use biological use of pests. So you won't be surprised, there are so many different kinds of natural or very humorous way of controlling pests also there. So they use some dolls also, scary crow, you might have heard about that. So likewise, so that these are all controlled by the pests. And also biological pests are nothing but the same type of what do you call it as agricultural wastes are used to control these type of pests. Okay, so definitely crops are controlled by the natural way only. So that is where they don't use chemicals, that you have to observe. They don't use chemicals. Okay, so there uh, sometimes, even though if they use chemicals, that won't be to that extent. Very a small percentage of chemicals might be used, or 100% no chemicals are used. That is why organic farming or organic products are really good. So people, they go for that, right? You might have observed, and those organic fruits are, or organic vegetables or whatever, it's little costlier because it is highly rich in nutrients, because they don't use any chemicals. Obviously, I think the picture will tell you. At home also, you might have seen, if you have any tulsi part or some plants and all, whatever the at home your vegetables are cut, whatever the wastage, so everything will be thrown to the garden. Why? That itself is a manure. Okay, green leaf manures. Okay, I think probably your parents, your mom might have done that. So the same thing. Okay, this is how the organic farming is done. Seems to be interesting, right? So that's how, and believe me, farming is not so easy. At the same time, it is also very interesting. If you get a chance to use some villages where you can see how these agricultural activities are done, don't ever miss that. You will definitely enjoy it. The way they use some intelligence and growing of crops and all, or controlling of pests, will be definitely mesmerizing. Okay, so those are the good opportunities. Don't ever try to miss it. Okay, that's all for now. So these are the different types of farming. So we will definitely discuss a few more points about the seasonal crops, kharif crops, rabi crops, zaid crops. What are the crops? What are the geographical features? Where it is popular? Which is the largest producer? So starting with rice, we will discuss in part 3. So please subscribe. I know there is a humor also, subscribe, subscribe and all. So remembering that. So signing off for today. Please subscribe Patashala GP Sir channel. You can also suggest to your friends if you feel that whatever the explanation and notes you can see on the screen is really easy and useful. Please suggest your friend and ask them to subscribe the channel as well. So like, if you like it, and any questions, you're most welcome that you can just leave me a message or follow me on Instagram gp_teacher. So we will meet in the next class, that is agriculture part 3. Till then, have a nice day. Thank you. Bye bye.